I always guide my clients to do some gratitude and then programming in the morning because I want to cultivate a charge. I want to cultivate some polarity. Then I want to tell my body you're already validated. That way, I don't have to question that. I don't go seeking that out in the world. I don't out my energy. More of me is held in that present moment. So I try to sustain that charge throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, any lower frequencies, energies, or density, thank you for what you've taught me, but I don't identify with you. I send you into the Christ or the heart space with gratitude because they have a strong magnetic field that can transform these waveforms. So once they start learning how to transform some of
Oh,
these waveforms,
great
they're
advice.
not so trapped by them. Being initiated by the dark was a huge help because now I'm like, you basically taught me how to overcome you. Thank you.
Mm.
And once we can start doing that with our trauma, we can give that genuine. That's where it's at, the genuine, not the disingenuine, because it's just like talking to a person. If I say thank you and mean it, or thank you and don't mean it, once I can thank you, all any lower energy for what you taught me, and really mean it, then it's going to start to release.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. I am very excited to talk to our special guest today. So without further ado, Leslie, say hey.
Hi, I'm your co-host, Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we're here with Steve.
Steve, can you say a quick hello before I formally introduce you?
Sure. Hi, my name is Steve Noack. I'm a near-death experiencer, survivor, author, and now healer. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing your time with us. And for our audience, join us in this captivating episode of Living Life Consciously, where we delve into the extraordinary journey of Steve, an NDE survivor, author, and healer, as he just said. At just 4 years old, Steve was struck by a motor vehicle, leading to a near-death experience that changed his life forever. During this profound moment, he encountered a being of light who revealed the wonders of the quantum field and its immense potential for healing humanity. For years, Steve kept this incredible experience to himself until 2008, when the same beings made contact once again and healed him. This awakening led him to embrace his gifts and share them with the world. Steve has shared his story and healing abilities at prestigious conferences for international near-death studies and the Hart Center. He also has been featured on renowned radio programs like Coast to Coast and Horsefly Chronicles. He began his journey by studying Usui Reiki over a decade ago and has since grown into a leading figure in the field of quantum healing. He now teaches, heals, and coaches clients from all walks of life, helping them unlock their own potential for healing. Steve, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your time with us today. Is there anywhere specific you would like to begin, or should I start with a question?
You can start with a question, and then I suppose I can tell you what happened at 4. I can say briefly, I had my near-death experience at 4. I saw a lot of things that at the time I didn't understand. And slowly the memories started to come back around like age 11 or 12. Maybe it was puberty that was bringing them back. Who knows? But then I tried to share them, and I realized really quickly it wasn't anything good to share because it made me feel awkward and things like that. So then I hid it and never realized. I thought everybody was as sensitive as I was. I thought everybody, was the same. I never realized how much it affected me until these lights just showed up again like 30 years later. I think it was almost 33 years later, just
Oh, wow.
about,
Wow.
if I count out the years.
So do you mind starting at the beginning? I kind of gave a little bit of a brief introduction of your NDE experience in the intro, but can you take us back to that moment and fill
Sure.
us in on what happened and what your perspective of the experience was?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was on a big wheel, which is a really small plastic tricycle, about an inch off the ground for the people who weren't born in
I
like
remember
1970.
those. I
Yeah.
remember those.
And I was across the street at my neighbor's house, where we spent a lot of time. And my brother comes out of my house and he calls to me to go to the mall. He said, "Come home, we're going to the mall." And that's all I needed to hear was mall. I see toys flashing in my head. And I go down the driveway between two parked cars, and I didn't know there was a car coming because I didn't wait.
Hmm.
And then the car hit me, basically ran me over. The woman happened to be drinking as well. And I was so small, she didn't know she hit a child, so she just kept going. So I was under the car for another 20 or 30 feet until people had jumped in the road and stopped her. But what I remember is a blur. Just going down is a blur. And then the next thing I know is I'm looking at myself and I see my eyes roll in the back of my head. And then everything fades to like a black. And then it opens up again. And I'm sitting. And I'm sitting and I'm leaning to my side on someone, or they're kind of like holding me. And I hadn't opened my eyes yet. I'm just getting the first sensations of feeling someone. I'm thinking, what happened? I open my eyes and I see hair that's almost touching the ground. It's like silvery, almost luminescent. I see the same color of a robe, like the bottom of a robe, no feet. So I'm like, I'm just thinking, who is this? What happened? And I went to turn and asked them what happened, and it was a hooded figure. And instead of having a face, they had only light where their face should be. It was just a being of light wearing a robe. And I paused for a minute. I asked them what happened. And they said, "Stephen, you were in an accident. Put your head down. Everything's going to be fine." And this phrase was repeated 33 years later, during a surgery I went to have for an elbow. And then that's when everything started again. So it was, "Stephen, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right." So I put my head down, kind of like on their chest, and I'm staring at their face. And as I'm looking at their face, I'm being pulled and feel this pull, and I'm being pulled into the light of their face, and kind of almost like a tunnel. Being
Wow.
pulled into that light, that hood, that face, and then I could feel myself kind of being stretched out in a way,
Okay.
like magnetically pulled. And then I got a little deeper into that pull, and the scene kind of changes, and I start to see meadows and nature and just the most beautiful flower you ever saw. Meadow upon meadow upon meadow, uh, butterflies, and I mean, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And I'm looking around, and I see it there. There's a path, and I see in the distance there's figures, and I could hear people kind of in the distance. And I see two figures playing, and it's like an old man and a child. I'm just watching them. And the little girl laughs as they're playing. And I have to back up to the flowers. Like, the flowers were alive. They were their own beings, sovereign beings. The colors were their own sovereign beings.
I've been wanting to ask you about colors this whole time, but I didn't want to interrupt.
No, it was flowing through everything. And it was almost like I was seeing what it really was, its
Wow.
frequency or whatever it was. Um, and it was so many colors that you still couldn't compare it to today. It was so vibrant. It was so real
We've heard
that
that
this
before,
world
yeah.
feels different. Yeah.
I've heard from other
Huh.
people that have either had NDEs or astral traveled at some point that once they get on the other side, the colors are so vibrant. It's like nothing they've
Mhm.
seen here on Earth. It's like the Crayola crayon box doesn't have those options.
Yeah, they were alive. I mean, that's all I can say is the colors were alive.
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
and this little girl lets out a laugh, and I see it kind of go through the air, and it just, because I'm standing now and I'm just watching,
Mhm.
and it touches me right in the heart, and that was it. It was like this wave, and I knew everything was one, and I knew there was no hate there. There was no pain.
Mm.
Um, Not that it didn't exist. It was that it couldn't. It couldn't match whatever was happening there in frequency, energy. I sort of understood that in a basic
Oh,
principle.
wow. That's an interesting point. Like the vibe is so high there, it just literally can't possibly exist in
Yeah,
that
it can't
frequency.
manifest in that space. So I wanted
Wow,
to
that's
go there and
comforting.
stay there. Yep. So I wanted to stay there, and the being says, it's not your time. And then all of a sudden the scene changes, and it's like I'm standing in a night sky without stars. Not quite black, but like a night sky without stars, really.
Okay.
And then they say, we have other things to show you. Well, it's not your time. We have other things to show you as that scene changed. And I noticed there's like these faint lines going up and down. It's almost like a grid or lattice. And the being says, this is the quantum field. Human beings experience their reality in relationship with this field through their thoughts and their emotions. And yeah, so
wow.
and then they brought me to this wheel, and it literally looked like a medicine wheel, wagon wheel. There was a pillar of light in the middle, and I understood, as they told me, this pillar of light is you. You are the energy of love, and you spend your energy to experience a material reality as a waveform in this quantum reality. You're an energy playing a character, in other words.
That
now,
was there.
A lot of,
wow, that's amazing.
yeah, a lot of this is just,
Avatar.
it's just going into my subconscious, and then later it's going to, floodgates are going to open, and then it's going to rearrange my life, put it that way. So they're telling me that. They're also showing me myself as a pillar of light, and these cords going out from the center to this screen that was all the way around me. And I'm sort of focusing on what's at the end of these cords. Where are they going? And I see these little, they almost look like TV screens, and they're all over the place. There's some empty spaces in this screen, but there's a lot of, screens. And I noticed that they're memories. And then they say, people store everything they do, down to every thought in this field there's a record of it.
So was that the Akashic Records, the quantum field of Akashic Records?
Yeah, basically.
Or like your own personal, but it's like your own personal.
Yeah, it was like a life review,
but
they were informing me about the records being stored at the same time. Then they tell me this is the process of life review, but you don't have to wait until you leave to do it. And this is called ascension. And then they started to talk a little bit about this is also related to human evolution. And they're showing me this mechanism where I'm spending energy. They tell me when you spend your energy, it gets anchored in another area until that energy is resolved. And I'm just, I guess, keeping this for later, because I grew up pretty normal. So that fades away, this wheel structure where I'm spending energy. I see a screen around me. My memories and experiences are being stored. That changes back to this grid lattice, this blue grid lattice, this night sky looking. And then a triangle starts coming towards me and approaching me. And it's made out of that same blue energy. And I see a tip of energy on each, a ball of energy on each tip of the triangle, and then one larger one in the center. And they tell me this is the Trinity. This is Father, this is Mother, and this is Son. Make the three one.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was pretty much what they told me about the Trinity, until I stumbled upon the meanings later of heaven, earth, sun, thought, breath, and a lot of these other correlations.
Mind, body, spirit.
Yeah,
mind, body, spirit, really gut, right? Because that's what's going to centralize the truth within our body or anchor it down. And they're showing me also the 0-point field and how to get myself out of this system of duality. But that was more or less once they returned. They were showing me how to rewire myself. So I see this triangle. They tell me this is Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, this is Holy Son, make the three one. Then that kind of fades away, and I wake up with toys. And when I wake up, I'm asking people what happened, and I'm resistant to the answer because I know something else happened. They're like, "Oh, you were in an accident." I'm like, no, there was something else. What happened? And so it was 11 or 12 when I started to get the memories. I tried to talk about it, And I didn't realize how much it affected me as a person and the way I navigated reality in terms of emotions and things like that.
Okay.
But 11 or 12 started to remember, tried to talk to a couple people about it.
How was it
Felt,
received?
felt more awkward than I did before I mentioned it. So at that point, I shut it down and I figured whatever happened to me, it was in the past. It's a memory. I don't need to talk about it. It was a personal confirmation for me in a way to start getting the memories because I'm like, yeah, something did happen. I knew something happened. So I was at peace with that for the most part until 33 years later when the voice returned.
And that was during a second NDE that the voice returned?
Well, this was following flipping a car over 5 times at 75 miles an hour, having 3 people ejected out of the car. So it was a jarring experience, but it wasn't the clinical experience that I had at 4.
Okay.
So I was in to have my elbow corrected for some bones I broke during that accident. And then that's when the being spoke to me again. I started to feel really nervous, really panicked. I was sitting up, I was ready to leave, and I don't even know why. I didn't have any medication yet. I was just literally in the motion of getting up to leave. And this energy started from head to toe, and it was warm, and it just encapsulated me. It sat me down, and then it said, Stephen, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right. And then that was it.
Phrase, right?
Same phrase, same voice. And when I recognized it, it was like all these visions started, all these emotions, all these energies, chills through my body. I literally, it was days later, I went to the doctor's office and I yelled at him. I said, what did you do to me? Because I thought I was losing my mind.
Okay.
I went back to work. I started to hear people's thoughts. I could feel when people were hungry. And that was an interesting experience to figure this stuff out and test it. Because I was a store manager, so I could pretty much operate in the functional capacity that I wanted. So when a person walked in and I just ate and I was full and I was noticing the pattern, this is when people come in, I was like gut-wrenchingly hungry. And I'm like, are you hungry? And they're like, yeah. How did you know? And I'm like,
because I picked up on it.
Whatever information we were exchanging on a quantum level, it was intense. So I would have these periods where I would just bust out crying. I would bust out laughing. And it was like these energies were passing through me and I couldn't control them for a while.
Okay.
Once I started to wake up, this also waking up to these silhouettes walking around. Shadows, but also lighter ones. And then I realized, at first I thought I was being haunted. Didn't sleep for like a week. They started communicating with me. Oh, you're going to go to hell. You're a POS. You're never going to do anything with your life. You're not worthy. It's not pleasant, but it was all the things I told my younger self from childhood trauma. Ding, ding, ding. So I started to make the distinction that this was happening through me. It wasn't happening to me. And then that's when the visitation started from the Arcturians and the Galactic Council. And I'm like, listen, I don't know who you are. You can leave and let me just eat in peace. And they left, and I looked up the information I had never heard of before, and I started to find things about it. But they were teaching me that I was a divine instrument, that I had to tune myself, get myself out of safe mode that a lot of us are placed in because I had little functionality in that mode, and rewire myself out of duality because I was getting beaten by the environment and by these negative charges I never released from my body. Cellular memory, childhood trauma, a lot of those things. But they were slowly teaching me through these mechanisms where I thought I was crazy. I would go to work, and then I would literally try to go to every church I could find after work to talk to somebody that I could just
trying to figure it out, right? Deal with it, process it, something.
I knew it was coming from God. I could feel it. And I started to feel that feeling I felt at 4. And then that's how I started to relate. Okay, this is God. When that presence here, I'm okay. Look, use it as a compass. Use it as a guide to navigate this reality. Eventually I got to that point. But yeah, they were coming back. They were teaching me how to heal, how to rewire my system. At first I thought they were just doing it for me. Never thought I'd share and tell people my story and then help them heal. How I came
You're
across
paying it forward, Steve. That's awesome. You're paying it forward on a quantum level.
Well, it brought me into a deeper love too. Said,
Okay.
let these people know that you can be free too. Because there was a time when I was covered in debilitating chronic pain, darkness, addiction, and all of these things.
I can
And I
relate
didn't
to
think I
everything
could
you
get
just
out of
said,
it.
sir.
Hmm. It was like I had to just retune myself and begin really discarding or unsubscribing to any identities the world was giving to me. It was an identity issue.
Unsubscribing. That is
I like
such
that.
an awesome way to put it, because when you tell people like, oh, you got to cut cords or you got to sever the energetic tie, they're like, what? Huh? That sounds weird. But people will get unsubscribing from something.
Hmm. Oh, there was a part that I left out of the NDE. There was a part where, in between going from one scene to another, I noticed this card off in the corner. And it looked like a credit card, but it was missing a corner. And I'm just looking at it, it's kind of in the distance, and it has circuits on it. And they tell me this is your divine blueprint. This is what you were created from. And this is what you can connect to restore yourself. Now, later, I realized in working into my body, believing and knowing that I am the image of creator I was made in is what got me out of the matrix, because I started to retrieve all my energy that I had spent seeking validation, self-worth, things like that. The more I believe that I'm this image, the harder it is to push me, to label me, box in my potential, which leads us to like other things. So I witnessed what they would say was a divine blueprint, and they said each and every person has one of these. They just need to believe they are this and stop believing what the world tells them they are. So
Leslie
it
and
was
I talk
like a
about
reset.
blueprints all the time. Every time we're
Yeah.
questioning something, like if somebody's talking about, oh, I don't know why this happened, or I don't know why this person's going through this, we're always like, I think they signed up for it. It's on the
Yep,
blueprint.
yep. And then
Yeah, I
through
was
that
thinking.
slow, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I was thinking your whole story. I feel like would encompass your own divine blueprint. Would you say that?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, honestly, I got to the point where I'm satisfied not knowing where I'm going, strange as that sounds, because I feel like a kid on an adventure.
Yeah.
It's like
I love
just being with that love and then learning singularity, meaning once I made these three energy bodies or aspects of myself one, Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Holy Son, then I was out of the riffraff of being pulled into the past and held there, pushed out into the future. I became a singular aspect of myself, not bound by time or space. So I would have, back to the how I figured it out was I had a woman fall outside my store. Now at this time I'm trying to navigate reality, trying to, okay, am I crazy? Am I not crazy? What's happening?
Sure.
So this elderly woman falls outside my store and she's in a lot of pain. I'm the first one to get there because I was the first one to see it. And I put my hand on her and said, everything's going to be all right. Nothing to do with, what I heard during my NDE, but I'm just consoling
Maybe,
her.
maybe not.
Yeah, it could have been, right? And she was in pain. She was groaning and everything. She hit the cement and she turned to me and she goes, I'm all warm and I have no pain. And I didn't know what to say. I thought about it for days and days and days. And that's what spurred me into start looking into healing, natural,
Reiki vibes.
Right, yeah. But it was all a natural progression of like, okay, I'm just trying to be human, man. And like, here comes this other energy. And now it's time to integrate and merge with it and bring it into reality. But
So
what they were guiding
how'd
me,
you do that? How did you do that? Because it's so foreign and so like you were questioning your own sanity, right? You're like, what the heck is going on around
right.
here? So how'd you go from being like scared of it to now you're coaching and healing and teaching? How'd you go?
How'd I make the switch?
Yeah.
They started to convey things to me. And there were nights where I was sitting outside in my yard watching the stars and I would get lifted out of my body. And that was in that instant that I was like, there goes my pain, it's gone. And then when I came back to my body after these beings spoke to me, telling me I'm a biological machine, they conveyed things in a computer aspect. That's what made it so easy. I'm like, this is a manual. This is a manual for taking these two energies and making them one and leaving this system that ties my energy into these circuits and loops without my permission. So it was kind of like they gave me computer speak, subconscious, conscious programming, um, discarding or rewiring all lower neurotransmission through the heart space rather than holding it in the body as a conscious act. So I started to relate that to surrender and different things.
Okay.
But they were really speaking to me in like computer speak. You know, you're building programs into your system. You're going to try to run this program throughout the day and hold this energy in the present moment without you being pulled out of the present moment. I was cultivating a charge that was going to take me somewhere um, beyond the bondage, you know, that we're normally used to. Because I had a lot of it growing up. You know, people chased out of your house with axes and, you know, the whole gambit of the stuff you shouldn't witness as a child. Waking
Sure.
up, nobody's there in the middle of the night because your parents are working or they're gone and it's pitch black and you're wandering the streets, stuff like that. So breaking out of that bondage was tough, but it became so much easier when I started to look at myself like a computer, that I was feeding myself data and information. So I had to be aware of what data and information I was feeding myself and begin to rewire this background voice, all this other interference and this feedback, because that's what was happening when I became unaligned with truth. I started to create feedback. So I needed to start to match my thoughts with my emotions and that with my actions. And they were kind of walking me through this is just data and energy. You're the one feeling these feelings, but you're not the feelings themselves. They're passing through you. I needed a firm foundation. So I took a lot of time to go into nature instead of participating in the things I used to.
Okay.
Hot salt baths. And I really began speaking to my body in these energies that didn't belong anymore because they began to make me aware of the hijackers that were harvesting our quantum energy, using it for their potential. And you see a lot of that coming through government and coming through other spaces where they want to capture your emotions. But there's another game.
It's also trying to program our computers for our
right. Yeah,
it's like another source.
Us.
Yeah.
The fear narrative, right? This way, if you're in a low vibration of fear, you're constantly looking out scared, it's easier to control you that way.
Yep. So
yeah,
it's
and
much
you can
easier
take on that for your downloading, or you can empower yourself. And it really seems like love and self-love is a huge part of all of the
Oh yeah, that was the feeling. Remembering that feeling again, and then learning what it felt like, and then learning how to not give it away. You know, and then just be with it. And it's like now I can share love. I don't feel like I'm searching for it. There's a difference. There's no need anymore because I already am. And once I started to speak to my body in that way, the body started to heal. It already is. I already am. It was just a matter of delivering that gnosis to my body, that knowing. And so when I work with clients, because these beings returned and showed up in my room and started teaching me, and then I had dreams where I'm on ships and I'm waking up sweating, and in the dreams I'm bald and I'm wearing a slick white suit, and just so much stuff where I lost my train of thought with that, where I wanted to pass on to people what it felt like. And, you know, to have them understand that knowing is a feeling. You can work with that feeling and apply it to whatever subject you want and learn how to move energy, really move out of the past, not have yourself pushed out into the future by the environment. They taught me that usually most people are surfing this linear circuit where they're pushed and pulled, and that the 0 point was a maximum ground state. That's how I'm going to get myself out of that game, if you will, where we're kind of got a virus. We came here to have the sacred experience, but we got a virus in the system and other things, a bug in the system. So now we're upgrading it through how we process and store data, making it a lot more intuitive, a lot faster, rather than storing it in the body, creating this, then learning from it. It can be intuitive.
I'm loving this computer analogy because I know people are going to get that. I know they're going to resonate with it. They're going to be like, I understand that.
And
I was thinking, I used to, have a lot more anxiety. I mean, I still experience anxiety here and there, but I'm able to get through it. Like you said, it's just really letting the emotions just move through you and then telling yourself. But the synchronicity I wanted to say is like in the beginning of my spiritual journey, and when I had more anxiety, during the beginning, I kind of came into it going through darkness is how I came into mine to some extent. But but my, mantra or affirmation I would say all the time, Allie, was everything's gonna be okay. You remember that?
Everything's gonna be
okay.
fine.
Yeah, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. And I just thought that was a neat synchronicity because that seems like a huge thing that that like being said to you, and almost like it triggered the same hearing that, however many years later when you were 33 or whatever it was, but yeah, it triggered the reopening or the download of all the information that you had once received before.
Yep. It was like it was connecting to that information, and that speaks to why, I always guide my clients to do some gratitude and then programming in the morning, because I want to cultivate a charge. I want to cultivate some polarity. Then I want to tell my body you're already validated. That way I don't have to question that. I don't go seeking that out in the world. I don't part out my energy. More of me is held in that present moment. So I try to sustain that charge throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, any lower frequencies, energies, or density, thank you for what you've taught me, but I don't identify with you. I send you into the Christ or the heart space with gratitude, because they have a strong magnetic field that can transform these waveforms. So once they start learning how to transform some of these waveforms, they're not so trapped by them. Being initiated by the dark was a huge help, because now I'm like, you basically taught me how to overcome you. Thank you. And once we can start doing that with our trauma, we can give that genuine. That's where it's at, the genuine, not the disingenuine, because it's just like talking to a person. If I say thank you and mean it, or thank you and don't mean it, once I can thank you, any lower energy, for what you taught me and really mean it, then it's going to start to release.
That was a beautiful tip. Thank you. Start off with gratitude in the morning, and then at night, thank the lower, denser energies for their lessons, but say you got to keep it moving. And I find
I don't identify with you. You teach me through the heart. You don't teach me through the body anymore.
Okay.
And they just need to be taught a little bit consistently, because you create a new neural pathway for that information to flow.
Love that. Just before we started this interview, I was listening to a song by Masked Wolf. I can't think of the name of it, but one of the lines in that song is, "It was in the dark is where I learned to shine." And that's basically what you just said. So synchronicity.
Yeah. And it's having that dialogue with your body. Okay, what does truth feel like in my body? If I say I'm already loved, do I believe it? I want to be the witness to that behind the scenes, whatever I'm saying. If I say to myself, I'm a sovereign being, I'm already whole, I want to know that I believe that, and that I know it. And then just stretching that muscle. Okay, why didn't I believe it? Let me be a little firmer. And now you're learning how to kind of push energies out of your body, really discharge them. Yeah.
Awesome.
So eventually I did have to leave the job, because it got so intrusive. I couldn't do my function as a store manager and continue to do that. And then there were other experiences following that, but I'll let you guys ask questions if you want.
Okay, sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have any questions that's going to lead us into that, I don't think. So maybe you should tell us now what experience.
Oh, sure. Well, driving my car one day, and I'm beating myself up real hard. And I was not a churchgoer. My parents never brought me to church, so none of this came from church. And I'm being real hard on myself about what a loser I am and all this stuff, and not being good enough. And that's when this voice comes in to my right, and I'm driving at the time. So it starts telling me how beautiful I am, all these people that love me, and all these people that I helped. And I'm like, whoa, because that was very different than the communication I was receiving at the time, as I was trying to separate these shadows and
negative.
Right. Some of them were projections of me, and some of them were the distorted version that was being transmitted, broadcasted from me. So it was really technical. But I'm driving along, and this voice starts speaking to me, and I'm like, that sounds different. And it sounded very clear. So I said, who are you? And the voice says, I am. And then I'm like, I am who?
You finished the statement, right?
Right. And the voice goes, I am. And then I'm like, I heard you the first time. I literally said this. I am who? And then the voice says, I am, one more time. And it was like this rush of energy came up through me. It was like somebody like a reflex. Somebody like hit me in the gut without being hit. I started to have a vision of like every memory combined with every feeling I ever had in my life at the same time, but separate.
And this is
I
while you're
felt them at
driving?
the same, this is while I'm driving.
Oh, geez.
I felt them exactly at the same time, but every one of them separate, just fired through my system.
Wow.
And then instantly I was bawling and I pulled the car over and I spent probably a good 10, 15 minutes going, what the heck was that? Um, that's aside from the other balls of light in my room and things like that. But that was probably one of the most powerful, profound experiences of a singularity, I guess you could say, where everything became one.
That's amazing. Do you feel like this being that you are hearing is the being of light? And do you feel like if it is the same person or different, I mean, are they your spirit guides or, like what do you
Definitely my guide, but also everybody's guides. Um, I came to learn later, I was having synchronicities with angels, just weird experiences where I would see something that would say this and then hear something that would say this. And so many things just leading me to understand, okay, these are angels, but they're Elohim. They're different than kind of how we described the Hallmark angel. They were like, I don't know, a waveform uh, of celestial intent or however I wanted to call it, but that they were somehow communicating with me, through me, or guiding me. So angels is what it was led to, but then to
and I
also
am is
understand
like
them,
source our God
right? It
itself.
was
I mean,
almost like
right?
somebody, it was like me up there with a PlayStation controller hitting the reset button or something. It's like I'm playing my character and it's like, all right, here, I got a cheat code.
Interesting. It maybe you needed and you needed it and to propel you into what you're doing now and to help you,
Right.
because I mean,
Uh,
some people might have a lifetime where they don't, or it may be more than not, where they don't, you know, uh, I don't know what excel or,
right.
basically get pushed through it and learn the lessons. They get stuck versus
Yep.
like
Mm.
actually learn the lessons.
Yeah,
But
it's important to understand we're stringing together lifetimes of knowledge and transforming, our trauma into wisdom. I didn't believe in past lives. I didn't believe in anything, really. I thought if there was a God, he doesn't like me because
Aw.
I had that experience at 4 and then nothing
Mhm.
after and all the pain. So I was like, he probably doesn't like me if there's a God. I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you're having the negative self-talk as well,
oh,
which
yeah, there was a lot to overcome. I didn't want to be here anymore. That's how bad it was. And now I realized that, okay, it wasn't about a love story between myself and any certain character. They were all the same characters, that I was having a love story with creation itself, and
Mm.
that I should have a good relationship with that within me and be accountable to love for what I create. And then that brought me closer to that godly presence where I started to feel that love and I had no pain. And it totally changed my reality, put it that way.
okay, well, so how would you describe the quantum field in the context of healing
Human what?
consciousness?
In the context of healing and human consciousness, I would say it's like the glue that holds us together. It's like the strings, where you got two cans on the end of the string and you talk to somebody and the vibration goes to the string and they can faintly hear something. We're all connected and what we do affects us all as a whole. So our relationship with that is like a circuit in nature. When I wake up and I say, I love you to the trees, to the birds, I can feel it return to me and open in my heart. So there's a relationship to our energy that we're all inherently tied together in that one field as love, our original identity and blueprint.
Yeah, I guess this
It's
next question kind of follows into what you're probably saying is what role do emotions and thoughts play into our ability to connect with and utilize the quantum field?
Well, I would say the gradient charges can either separate us from love, our creator, or bring us closer. But that's the whole journey, is to learn free will and how to move myself between dimensions using my thought and my will and love. So it's like almost like we're here learning free will, put it that way. I'm learning how to move and get myself out of this bondage that I created. And I see equations everywhere. There's equations to free myself from this bind or this pattern, patterns, habits, and impulses.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered that, but
I don't know either, but
I think you did.
I kind of forgot the question, to be honest.
Sorry about my dogs barking earlier too.
Allie, do you want to ask a question, or do you have anything to say to what he just said?
I think a persistent question that I've had in my head this whole time is going back to when you were 4 and you saw this light being that didn't really have a face. It was just light. I'm wondering or thinking that like a little kid might see that and freak out. So did you freak out when you saw this being with no face, or was it like a recognition?
Yeah, it was like being in a dream and being semi-aware, but you're not fully aware. I'm
Okay.
partially confused. So at the time, I remember feeling, why aren't we speaking? Why aren't our lips moving? Or just simple things like that. I think I was more confused than
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
That,
I'm just thinking
okay,
you'd be taken aback by that, you know?
Or it's possible that the energy from the light being was a
Comforting.
comfort
Yeah.
to some
yeah,
extent.
because they were literally cradling me, like holding me, and I'm feeling them, I'm on them, and I'm like, who is this? And it's not a who. So,
Gotcha.
and then, them coming back, it's like I realized none of it was separate, not past, present, future. And by making my mind, heart, body one, I also make those one. That's where my free will is. But the experiences didn't stop. It was like constant supernatural, mind altering experiences. Before I left my job, there was one day I went to the gas station and I went to pay for gas or something. And there was a man and his son in front of me. And I'll never forget this. The son walks out of line. He goes up to grab a Reese's peanut butter cup and grabs it, turns to his dad, and he's got one in his hand. He says, can I get one of these? Sure. Gets in line. And then he does it again. And he does the same exact thing, except he didn't have two. He only had one. And I went, that was really freaking strange. And I walked out to the car. I turned on the car and the radio was on. So they're talking to this woman and they're laughing. They're talking about a radio contest. They're talking about the answer and they're laughing. All of a sudden, the phone's ringing on the radio and it's the woman. And then they ask her the question. And I went, I just heard the answer. They were just talking about the answer. So that was one of the days when I was like, something's wrong.
Whoa.
And that sent me on the going to churches. I started to feel like there's a spiritual war for our energy. And it was like a lot of it was just coming up, but it wasn't landing on anything that made sense at that time. So there was a lot of missing time experiences, time loops, changes, shifts, things like that, where it's just like reality was gone and I knew it. It's just that I was clinging to it. That's where the struggle came in. But yeah, a lot of supernatural experiences with different beings and the healings, quantum entanglement, and them teaching me how to use quantum entanglement.
Okay. Now I want to switch gears just a tiny bit because this book over here is talking to me. This is a book called Death, where it is a compilation of transformative near-death experiences, and you are a co-author in this book. So can you speak about like what your contribution to this was, or did we basically already cover it?
No. I was a co-author. There's a bunch of other great stories in there. Someone who was struck by lightning, I don't know how many times, but many. So I was a co-author. It was put together by myself and about 13 other people, I believe. I could be off on that.
Yes,
but
13.
It was a great taste for me to get into the writing because I wasn't all about that. I was about like leave me alone. And then it was like part of your healing is allowing this to flow to others. And I'm like, okay, slowly got into that. But it was my first foray into authoring, really. And I think I talk about the story about my tattoos as well. How I was having visions of these tattoos on my hands.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah, and it was the strangest thing. I'd be driving, and then I would see them, and they'd be gone. And I would see them, they'd be gone. And it wasn't until I came across them, like looking somewhere else, that I was like, holy, that's what I'm seeing on my hands. And then I learned that they were sigils and that they were names of archangels wrote in some ancient language.
Oh,
And
wow.
as
Yeah.
I had them done, there was like 3 separate events, and I had, I think 3 or 4 tattoos done there where all the electronics shut down in the building right when it was finished. When it was done, boom, everything
What?
shut off. Then there was another one where the guy's wife, she was standing there watching. As soon as he finished, her eyes just welled up with water, and she put her hand over her face and she ran out of the house. And she came back like 10 minutes later and she said, I don't know what just happened, but everything is brighter and things like that. Everything is more clear. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, another weird thing. And then there was another one where they had the radio on, and it was the radio. It wasn't a record player, it wasn't a CD, it was a radio. And at the end of that one, screech, and everything shut off again. So there were different experiences along the way that really made me question my reality and try to
Sure.
integrate that into my life, because it was a challenge to family. I basically lost my family over it. They thought I
Oh,
was insane,
wow. I'm
you
sorry.
know? Oh,
Yeah.
don't be sorry. We're all one. So I didn't realize that at the time,
Mm.
We're a lot closer now that they see that I'm doing it and it's real
That's
instead of
good.
just
So
talk.
they've come around a little bit because they're
Yeah,
seeing results, right?
Yeah.
right. And
That's
that's
awesome.
supposed to be the next stage in our evolution, is the embodiment of truth and making it real with us here in the 3D, you
Mm.
know?
Can you specifically describe what services you offer, and then can you tell everybody where they can find you online, please?
Sure. I offer group healing sessions like every month, especially if people can't afford it. I work with elderly people. I work with kids who have autism. You can find me at trinityquantumhealth.com. There's links to different sessions. My calendar's there. Um, but yeah, I also run groups. Try to do it every third Saturday of the month, where I encourage everybody to participate, because that's how we get out of where we are, is just coming back and remembering that I was already love. I was supposed to be human. I don't
Mm.
have to carry all this stuff with me, you know?
Thank you for
That's
sharing that.
Thank you. What advice would you give someone seeking to expand their consciousness and tap into their own healing potential?
I would advise speaking to your body and start setting just a little consistent pattern where you're finding a few things to be grateful for, even if it's that tree or that bird or what you did a few days ago. Each time in the morning, so you start to build that program, because that consistent introduction of these charges into your system is going to help program your cellular memory and kind of move you out of any heavy spaces you're in. So speaking to the body a little, like each morning, giving thanks, telling yourself, I'm already loved, because you're helping your DNA remember that. So speaking to yourself a bit each morning, also thanking any lower emotions, any lower thoughts that come up throughout the day. Thank you for what you're teaching me, but I don't identify with you. I send you into my heart. And just no longer subscribing to the lower emotional scale as part of who you are, and starting to input your own parameters and your own identity. Because if you do that consistently a little bit in the morning, and you start to manage, your mind like you would a computer. I'm not going to click on a bunch of the spam email. It's going to give me viruses. I'm going to drop and drag it over here.
Oh, I
You do
love those
that,
analogies.
yeah, a little bit each day. Then all of a sudden I'm in this higher space. I have less pain. I have less interference, less darkness, but it's the speaking to the body.
This
It's
is
the
so,
combination of breath and thought, breath and thought.
yeah. This is so synchronistic. I can't even tell you, because just yesterday I was having a conversation on the vetted server about Dr. Emoto's water experiment.
I was just thinking about water, and if he had any,
Yep. And how you have to, like, words are spells that carry certain vibrations. So like what you say becomes, and what you think, that
Mhm.
becomes. And it's like we were talking about the just positive affirmations and the power and memory and consciousness of water, and how we are made mostly of water. So it all makes sense that if you speak and think nicely to yourself, your body will be happy and coherent
And
and
not only
symmetrical.
that, I'm giving myself good ground for my thought to fall on. So if I tell
Nice.
myself I'm already validated, I'm already whole, and I, work that into my system later in the day when I'm getting compressed by certain emotions or the environment, I can say, wait a minute, I already am. And that's going to expand me past that pressure. So it's a game. It's a game of giving, taking spaces and knowing when to hold your energy. But a little bit of programming in the body, yeah, it goes a long way. And that relationship with what knowing feels like in my body. I'll ask my clients, do you know how to tie your shoes? Do you know how to walk a dog? Do you know how to make a bowl of cereal? Yeah, of course I do. Well, of course you are a sovereign being. It already is. And kind of learning how to use that truth in your body,
Awesome.
especially when I'm dealing with like physical pain. I have clients that call me and tell me that, they go hiking and they move that pain out of the way by speaking to it now. So, sorry, go ahead.
That is awesome. Would you say that we are also light beings? I don't know if we would be the same as what you experienced or saw, or But
you know what I think?
You are.
I think we're the ones who came here from heaven, and I don't think it was really a fall. I think there was a positive and negative aspect to it that was needed, or to hold us in the body. But yeah, I believe we're divine beings waking up to who we are.
I do recall hearing you say about spiritual war, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that at this point in your life. Like,
well, there's a spiritual war.
I don't want to go too dark because I don't want to focus on darkness so much.
Yeah, I got you. Well, there's a war to harvest, to capture that gold that should be stored in heaven before we can store it. Our emotions, our thoughts, and it could be a simple marketing campaign. It could be the government telling you you're not doing this, you're not doing. Yeah, you don't keep me safe. I'm already safe. I don't want to get caught up in these earth games where these people attach to my emotions, because now they're using my emotional energy for their potential.
It's so true. I feel like I'm successfully detaching. I'm not gonna claim to be my environment can still, if I'm not.
Oh, it's still gonna try to pull you out of the present moment.
Yeah, we're always challenged. I think that's part of it here. But I definitely have learned not to focus on the whole show, circus, and whatever else is going on.
my adversary is no longer the world. It's that energy that wants to separate me from love. And that exists wherever I go. And it always looks the same, but it may come in many different flavors, right?
Yeah,
it's like, you're my adversary.
Everything is going to be okay, right?
Yeah. I love how you threw that in there. I have a question that we ask of all of our guests. Usually Justin asks it, but he's not feeling well today, so I'll ask it on his behalf. What is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
That we remember who we are, and that this brings us all back online as one. That people find as much quantum tech support as they can to rewire themselves out of this matrix, because there's games being played with our emotions. But I want everybody to remember that they already are love, and that's my hope for humanity, because that helps us evolve as a species.
Beautiful.
Yes, I use my own what username is that, what you call light being love? I'm not that technical savvy, actually. I cannot relate to all of your stuff though. It makes total sense. But so light being love, I've been finding myself using that and saying I am light being love, and it's powerful. When I say it, it does something amazing.
Yeah, we're divine beings made out of pure love, playing characters. We just filter and distort our waveforms.
Yeah. What do you believe is the future of quantum healing and its role in modern medicine?
Well, I believe I remember saying this a few years ago, that we're going to have, how come we don't have the machines yet? They're supposed to be here on your planet. They're supposed to already be here. And now we're seeing the light machines. We're seeing the different machines that shoot photons for patients. So I believe a lot of light therapy is going to come in as almost like diagrams to tell the nervous system where to place energies and where to send them. It's like mapping, but I believe we're already doing it now, and we can do it now ourselves. But I definitely think it's going to expand, and it's going to grow, because a lot of people are disenchanted with the medical system. I was one of them. I was one of the people that are like, we can't figure nothing out. Have a good day. I'm like, dude, I need to go to work. I don't want to take pain medication the rest of my life. And here I am, I take nothing.
Yeah.
And I do pretty much everything I want. You know?
That is awesome. A lot of our guests, in our last recent one that we spoke to, who was a channeler, but you know, one of the questions posed to her was you know, our future, the distant future. And it seems like what she said correlates with some of the other guests that we've had, and just other insights, I guess, in the spiritual community, but that we are going to start to embody more of our multi-dimensional selves. And this is from channeled information from...
Yeah, in the moment of now, we're moving towards singularity, but it's not the singularity people think or they are.
Yeah, and I feel like the flower and what you witnessed on the other side at the age of 4, you know, is the true multi-dimensionality. You were seeing it, and maybe that's what we're slowly going. Could that be here in the future?
They're like, time is not separate. You're being held by your emotions in the present moment. You know, it's that union of the 3 energy bodies.
I always think really deeply into things too much sometimes, and then get lost in like what I was even trying to say. Anyway,
I think that happens to the best of us. Yeah. It's like I start off trying to like make one point, but then I start making a side point to correlate, and then I forget what the origin point was that I was trying to get to in the first place.
Yeah. I'm gonna breeze over these.
But I also see the medical establishment. It's like you're gonna have to move towards more of that heart-centered embodiment of truth, or you're not going to survive, because it's going to be revealed. You're not going to hide this stuff, you know, forever. It's going to be revealed by the frequency, because everybody's getting polarized.
Yeah.
Do you happen to watch House of Dragons by any chance? This is something else I was thinking about earlier.
No, but I do like... I'll tell you this. When I saw Game of Thrones, I was highly disappointed that they had white hair but dark eyebrows. And I don't know why. But I'm like, what, did just your hair change but not your eyebrows? But I do like how the dragons kind of have some of the matching eyebrows.
That's so funny you say that, because I have an obsession with eyebrows too. I don't know what it is, but that's a whole different sidetrack. The reason why yeah, they frame the face. They can like say so much without saying anything. Anyways, the reason why I asked you about House of Dragons is because in the show there's a character, Daemon Targaryen, who is going through these episodes where he's like reliving things that have happened to him in the past. And I'm sitting here going, is he having like deja vu, or like why we've already seen this? Like, why are we seeing this again? And then I read some stuff online, and I had a discussion with Justin, and basically we came to the conclusion that Daemon Targaryen is going through a spiritual awakening. And there is a witch character that's involved in this that I feel, it hasn't been confirmed, but I feel she's influencing him and all the hallucinations that he's having. But the reason why I brought this up, and I'm glad I can remember my point, is that we came to the conclusion that he's revisiting trauma moments where he did something that he felt wasn't good enough, or where he was judged or something. So basically he's like doing shadow work through hallucinations. This is why I brought this up, because it's like these are moments and pivotal points in time in his timeline to where he has some sort of like dis-ease, or like a virus came into him at that time, and now he's going back to that moment and reliving it, reprocessing it, and removing the virus.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you get that virus in the system, and from what I understand, it comes a lot from the parts of ourselves that never got completed, never got recognized, never got loved. They were there, but they never kind of got finished. So they kind of get hinky-jinky in the system.
Goes back to Dr. Emoto in the water, you know, like, so when you're having neglect or you know, meanness towards you, you know, it affects you. And the opposite, which we can give ourselves completely, and is the love and acceptance and nurture and all that kind of stuff to ourselves. And we can do that to our own inner child and heal in that way to change.
That's really what healed me, was doing the stuff I did again as a child and feeling like I didn't need permission to do it. I was like, Go out into nature. Go do this. Go do that. Go do that. And more of that. Okay, now I'm cultivating. I'm no longer just spending myself into debt. You know.
Hmm.
I just wanted to clear the when you said clear up the debt. Is that what you said? Clear up the debt. Now I'm
Yes.
mixing words, but you're speaking of energy, right? That you spent.
Yeah. Spending into debt to where I lose sight of my identity.
Hmm.
Okay.
You know,
Thank you
where I
for
can no
clarifying.
longer feel like I know that I am sovereign, that I'm loved, that I'm, you know, these are clues that I look for throughout the day in my body. When I say I am, I want to know my body agrees with it. My body doesn't agree with it, then there's something out of tune. So I'm always having that kind of relationship with truth.
Love
Right.
that. Totally resonate with that. All right. Is there any last words that you'd like to share with our audience? Any last thoughts? Any piece of advice? Anything we didn't cover that you wanted to say?
Yeah, just that everybody is the energy of love. It's not even a question of whether you're worthy of it, it's that you are it, experiencing reality. Um, go do the things that make you feel alive while you're here. It's such a short journey um, for us to come here and experience material reality as it is, as these waveforms that we are now. Um, connect to each other. Don't be so quick to judge other people, because a lot of other people are fighting the same programs that you are. Things like that we all have fought. But that's what makes the human story so beautiful and unique, because who wants to read a story with just highs? You need the contrast, but don't let it be your identity, because that's already been spoken for. Don't give that away to the world, because you're going to let things in there from the world. Give that to yourself. Your identity's already been given. Your permission's already been given to be human. Allow yourself to feel that. Have that relationship, you know, each day with mother, father, however you recognize creator. It should be something that you feel in your body and that lifts you up.
But yeah, it was awesome having you here. I've seen a lot of your interviews, so yeah,
Thank you.
love
Yeah, I
everything that you're
appreciate it.
about, and thank you for doing what you do, no matter what others might have thought about you through it all, and all that.
After a while, when everything is gone, then you got the motivation to prove everybody wrong. And I ran on that for a while where I'm like, this is real. I'm gonna prove it.
Uh-huh.
And then I was able to release that and just be like, just be, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's good fuel. It's good to learn how to use the contrast and the other things for fuel. And
Oh, I like
just that, correcting the inputs and outputs. What did I do with this energy? How I related to certain thoughts is what can I do with it? If I can't do nothing, well, it's got to go somewhere, you know.
right. Hmm.
How do I relate to the world? How do I relate to myself? Things like that. But it
Yeah.
was supernatural, you know, walking up the stairs, seeing these angelic shaped energies and just being like, hey, what's up? You know, because at the time, it's like I'm trying to push it away. And now it's like normal, you know.
Do you think it all came from your childhood to NDE? Because a lot of people say that it opens up. I mean, or do you think had you not had the NDE that you would have even had these following experiences later in life?
I think the NDE was supposed to happen, but I don't know if it had to happen that way or whatever. Um, but I think it's definitely related to whatever I experience as recognizing that oneness within us all. Because I'm like, you know, I'm able to see it in an objective where like, well, I'm not that worried about it. You're same energy I am, you know. So it definitely gave me, I don't know if you want to call it, it's not really a cheat code, but a feeling that I could recognize once it returned. You know, I don't know if it was supposed to happen or if it was just an accident. But what I can tell you is I prayed good and hard underneath the cross to show me why it was happening. And I saw a past life of walking in sandals, wearing a tunic on some sandy, dusty road. And there was, and this, I didn't believe in past lives. There were two rivers to my left, one to my right, and they came into the middle and became one river. And then I asked, you know, God, what's this? And then the vision just stopped. And I'm like, well, gee, thanks. So I looked it up on my phone and it was the parting of the Red Sea. I'm like, I don't know who I was, but I know I was there.
Oh, wow.
So that gave me a basis for saying, okay, I did do this before. There's something that felt familiar about it all. And, purification. I was doing things to purify myself, and I didn't even know why I was doing it. And then I looked back, like 2 years later, I wouldn't be able to eat, right? Certain time of year, I couldn't eat. I would feel all this energy. Like, I don't need to eat. I feel all this love. I don't even feel hungry. It was during Lent, and I didn't realize it until it was 2 years later that it happened every Lent, where my body would just start to purify.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is
Do you
very
feel like you
interesting.
had like a Kundalini experience by any chance? Like with throughout all?
Yeah, definitely at one time. Yeah. The whole gambit. Yeah.
Okay. But I guess it's not a Kundalini experience. What do they call it? A Kundalini awakening? Is that what it's called?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Where it's like that energy is there, and it's like, okay, now you got to learn how to
Yeah.
overcome the
Awakening.
seven vices. Put it that way. I wanted to learn, okay, how do you overcome hunger? How do you overcome pain? How do you overcome sexual feelings? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I became really curious about what made me tick and what pulled me out of the present moment. So
I love that introspection. Steve, thank you so much for sharing your time with our audience today. It was really enlightening getting to speak with you. Leslie, thank you for sharing your time with us as well. And for our audience that's still sticking around, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends. Much love, peace, and namaste.